we've got our young guest back in the studio. We'll be hearing from him, literally, in just a minute. There he is. Here you are, you see yourself on telly, Will. Well done.
So, the reason that Will is here is because he has benefited from attachment parenting, and it is being reported that dozens of support groups for mums and dads have been set up around the UK to promote a controversial way of bringing up children. It's kind of attachment presenting this morning, isn't it?
Attachment parenting causes children to be kept physically close to their mother at all times. It's based on...
I want him in my lap.
the 3 Bs: breastfeeding, bed sharing, and baby carrying in slings.
That's all right, he can go for a wander. Yeah. All of these should be done until the child is 3. Some critics, though, concerned youngsters can become too attached. And Della Hyde is here. She's Will's mum. Will's just gone for a wander around the studio. And psychologist David Holmes is here as well. He's staying put for the time being. We're asking, how practical is this?
I can understand, especially in the first year of the baby's life, they wanting the skin contact and building the bond in that way with the baby. But 3 years is excessive to me, to put it simply.
Because I hold him close all the time like this, it's making him a bit mad. It's like if I don't hold him, he cries. But I've got to go back to work in March. Do you know what I mean? It's hard.
No, I think it's ridiculous. I think it's bad enough anyway, isn't it? You know what I mean? You can't do anything anyway, doing normal day-to-day things. But to have him in a sling, then in bed with you, I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
I think maybe not necessarily having them actually with you physically all the time, but definitely spending more time with the children does benefit them later on in life, definitely.
3 years? Ow! When I get teeth, I think it's time to stop breastfeeding, to be honest with you. Well, for me, I did it for as long as I could, but it was for about 2-3 months for each of them. And I think that was enough.
So we mentioned Della Hyde is with us. Will is on and off set as he feels free to go. He's been properly looked up, I should say. And psychologist Dr. David Holmes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Della, the benefits, what are they? Because it sounds you've got Will.
Yeah.
You've got another boy who's 20 months old.
Oliver, yeah.
And you've got another one on the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard enough work without having them all attached at the same time, isn't it?
Well, they're not physically attached to me all the time. It's about building emotional attachments as well as physical attachments. So he feels assured enough that he can go off and he can do things, and know that I'm always here for him, and the others as well. I mean, new babies coming and they're going to need a lot of attention, but with the way we parent, will still get a lot of attention. So
busy writing scripts actually on the floor of the studio.
There was some editing we needed to do to the program. So Dr. David Holmes, it's about having confidence as a child, knowing mum's here, that gives a child independence then to go and explore the world.
That's the way it should work, yes. And in many cases it does work like that, and in that way to have a good, confident platform in order to engage with the world is ideal.
So what's the problem?
Well, it doesn't always work like that. Needless to say, it doesn't always work for the parents, it doesn't always work for the child. It's a bit of an individual thing. And where it can go wrong is if you do have a very self-indulgent parent who really wants to keep the child for their own purposes. They like the company, they like the idea of having somebody, small, they can look after permanently almost. And also for a friend later in life, which does inhibit the child, in fact, from making other relationships and engaging with the world.
So you mean it becomes all about mummy?
It becomes all about mummy, very mummy-centred instead of child-centred. But that said, the initial purpose of attachment parenting is actually to let the child engage with the world.
How attached do people get? I mean, we've heard of people breastfeeding till the child is 3 years old.
Yeah.
Perhaps you've heard of breastfeeding longer than that.
Yeah, of course. Well, breastfeeding in itself, our World Health Organisation, the NHS, both recommend breastfeeding to 2 years and beyond until mum and baby are both comfortable. And
the NHS recommends breastfeeding
to 2 years and beyond. Yeah, those are the recommended guidelines. Just to come back at you there, but about the about people bringing children very close and kind of almost abusing attachment parenting to that extent. Attachment parenting is about child-led parenting, and when they are ready, letting them go. So I wouldn't say that necessarily that kind of like egocentric sort of parenting is necessarily attachment parenting.
Well, certainly not. The problem is, of course, that some parents will interpret it as that for their own purposes. And it is a lot of interpretation with attachment parenting, a lot of misinterpretation. It is a loose thing. It's not a very fixed, rigid imposition in its original format. And one of the main rules, actually the very last rule, is that you should allow a balance between your personal and social and individual life and your parenting life. So that is actually built in.
How much balance do you get if the child, at least one child, is sleeping in bed with you every night?
A lot of balance, really. To be,
How many kids have you got in bed with you at the moment?
None at the moment because I'm pregnant and Oliver likes to wriggle quite a lot.
So you do have boundaries. I mean, if anyone wanted to, you don't have him in bed because you're pregnant.
Yeah,
but what if Oliver wanted to come in?
Oh, then if he wants to come in, he can come in. You know, if he's upset for any reason, he can come in. It's not about a checklist. You don't have to breastfeed until 2, and you don't have to use slings and carriers, and you don't have to bed share. Right? It's about flexibility and what's best for you and your family, not just you as a mother or you as your children, about dad, mum and babies all together.
But flexible parenting sounds like a different thing to attachment parenting, because flexible parenting says, well, you just do whatever you feel is right for you and the parent, whereas I thought attachment parenting was about keeping baby close, whatever you and your husband.
Well, it's about forming those emotional bonds, strong emotional bonds, where we respond sensitively and empathetically to children.
David, if there is an extra strong emotional bond being formed between the mother and the child, what happens to the dad?
Well, this is one of the problems. There's not much research to support attachment parenting, it has to be said, but then again it's a very vague area. One of the things that has been found very clearly is that in this situation, the relationship between, mother and father, etc., suffers, and outside social relationships suffer. There's obviously got to be a trade-off, both emotionally and in time sort of terms. So therefore, yes, there is damage in that way. In very, very intensive parenting, you also get depression, higher levels of depression, and more serious problems.
Right.
But this is, again, as you approach the more extreme end of interpretation of attachment parenting.
I would say that breastfeeding and especially baby wearing can help with depression. That forming those bonds together can help with depression, especially with relationships as well. A lot of formula feeding mums would be quite aggrieved to think that the only difference then between, say, them and the father and our kind of relationship we had is only breastfeeding being the difference. That they would feel quite aggrieved that you would suggest that they wouldn't have such stronger bonds. I know my husband would feel quite aggrieved that if anybody would suggest that he didn't have such a strong bond with children.
There is an over-focus, if you like, on breastfeeding, etc., and the 3 Bs that you're saying, and people outside who don't understand it fully just see that, and they see that as a red light, unfortunately.
We have to leave it. David, thank you very much. Della, thank you very much. You will get your son back. He's busy drawing on the floor of the studio at the moment.
We adopted.
As you can see, Will's done a marvellous job. Thank you.
He's been very independent.
Yes. He came on, actually, off camera, he came and delivered a picture to you.
Yeah.
In case you have 4 months to draw.
What have you got, Will?
You went again.
Have you got some more for Mummy there? So is he coming back on there? Here he comes. There we go.
You're going to go, bring us another picture. There you go. Come on, son. There you go. Up, my step there.
Wow.
Brilliant. Well done.
Oh, it's
Thank you.
muddy.
Thank you very much.
That's great for the next time.
We'll be joined by comedian Sean Hughes in a moment. I'm sure he's got a thought about all this.
Here's a quick last look at what's happening where you are.